Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Reborn Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Butros, and as always, I am excited to have you with me today. If you're new here, this podcast is all about personal and spiritual development, entrepreneurship, and leadership. We dive into the real stuff, the lessons, the struggles, the victories, so you can apply them in your own life. Today, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind a lot recently. It's a topic that every entrepreneur, every leader, and really anyone who's striving to achieve something big has to deal with. I'm talking about the cost of striving. We're going to break down exactly what it means to strive and why it is crucial. But more crucially, the price you pay for it. Now, don't get me wrong. Striving is essential. If you want to achieve anything significant in life, you've got to strive. You've got to push, hustle, and work harder than the next person. Here's the truth that no one really talks about. There is a cost to it. And the question isn't whether you should strive. The question is whether you're aware of the cost and if you're willing to pay it. Let's start with the reality of striving. When you're striving, you're in a constant state of pushing forward. You have a vision, a goal, and you're relentless in pursuing it. And that's a great thing, right? Well, yes and no. The reality is that striving comes with a ton of pressure. Pressure to succeed, pressure to outperform, pressure to keep up with the expectations you've set for yourself and those around you. I remember when I first started my entrepreneurial journey, I had this burning desire to make something of myself, to build something from the ground up. And I went all in. I sacrificed sleep, I sacrificed time with family, and I sacrificed my health, all in the name of striving. I thought that's what it took to succeed. And to some extent, it worked. I achieved a lot. But there was a hidden cost that I didn't see coming. Striving can consume you if you're not careful. It can take over your life to the point where you lose sight of what really matters. You start to equate your worth with your work. And that is a dangerous place to be. You see, striving isn't just about the effort you put in. It's about the mindset that drives that effort. And if that mindset isn't balanced, you're headed for burnout, resentment, or worse, regret. So let's talk about the hidden cost of striving. Because while everyone is cheering you on for hustling and grinding, no one is really talking about what you're giving up in the process. And make no mistake, you are giving something up. One of the biggest costs is time. Time is the most valuable resource we have. And when you're striving, you're investing huge chunks of your time into your goals. It's not inherently bad. Time invested in the right things is time well spent. But ask yourself, what else are you sacrificing in the name of striving? For me, it was relationships. I was so focused on building my business that I didn't notice how my relationships were slipping. Brothers, sisters, friends I used to hang out with regularly, family members I used to call, it all started to fade away. And by the time I realized it, there was a lot of damage to repair. Another cost is your health. And actually, before I move on to health, I do want to touch on, in the body of Christ, there's a lot of grace. So it wasn't really, for me, it was a little bit easier, right? Because I'm in the body of Christ. But another thing is, if you know you are someone who's striving for some big goal, like I am, surround yourself with people who know that you love them, they love you, and you will support each other. If you don't hear from each other for 6 months, a month, 3 months, 2 years, that doesn't mean it's gone away. That means that you are doing exactly what you said you're going to do, and you have integrity. But With that said, another cost is your health, both physical and mental. The constant drive to succeed can lead to sleepless nights, poor eating habits, and chronic stress. Now, for me personally, with my testimony having had really poor mental and physical health growing up, this is something that I've always still placed an emphasis on. Now, I do remember hitting a point where my body was giving me all the warning signs, but I ignored them because I thought I could push through it. Primarily, I got sick really bad one time. I was bedridden for about almost 2 weeks. And I actually my family had just left for a family reunion that I decided to stay home from. I felt God was calling me to stay and work and join in fellowship and so on. And that would have been great. I love working. I love being in fellowship. I love going to church. I love all these things, but instead I got sick and I was bedridden for 2 weeks. And then recently I have been very, very weak in the gym for about probably 3 weeks now. And I don't seem to be recovering how I normally do, which is scary. But, spoiler alert, I couldn't push through everything, and my health took a nosedive, and it forced me to reassess everything. And then there's the spiritual cost. When you're constantly striving, it's easy to neglect your spiritual life. You get so caught up in what you're trying to achieve that you forget to take time to connect with God, to seek His guidance, and to rest in His presence. I've been there, and let me tell you, it's not a good place to be. There have been times where I come to think of the Bible as a book. Just a book, like something that, I'd like to read it because it's a good book. It's good on, to develop and grow closer with God, but it's not a priority as much as it should be. Same thing with prayer. Same thing with going to some of my men's groups that are super, super powerful for me and very, very transformational. It's like a tornado. It can suck you up into the tornado and make you lost very, very quickly. So, is it possible to strive and still maintain balance? I believe it is. But it requires a shift in mindset and priorities. The key is to strive with purpose, not just for the sake of striving. It's about knowing what you're working towards and why, and then making sure that your efforts align with your values and long-term goals. One of the biggest shifts I made was learning to say no. Not every opportunity is worth the cost. Just because something looks good on paper doesn't mean it's the right move for you. This is where discernment comes in. Knowing which opportunities to pursue and which ones to let go. It's about choosing to strive for the things that truly matter and letting go of the rest. Another important aspect is setting boundaries. You need to protect your time, your health, and your relationships. That might mean scheduling downtime, prioritizing time with loved ones, or even taking a step back when you need to. Striving should enhance your life, not consume it. And finally, keep your spiritual life at the center. When God is at the forefront of your efforts, everything else falls into place. Pray for guidance, seek His will, and trust that He'll lead you where you need to go. Striving doesn't mean going it alone. It means partnering with God and allowing Him to direct your steps. All right, let's bring this home with some practical takeaways. First, strive with purpose. Make sure your efforts align with your long-term goals and values. Don't just hustle for the sake of hustling. Strive for what truly matters to you. Oftentimes, as entrepreneurs, we can easily be told, "Hey, man, you need to work 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week." Or guess what? Your competition is going to be outworking you. Your competition is going to pass you, and ultimately, you're going to fall behind, and you're never actually going to accomplish anything. And that can be a scary thought to have. And we don't want our competition to pass us. We don't want to never accomplish anything. We want to strive but make sure you're striving with purpose. Second, do recognize the cost. Be aware of what you're sacrificing in the process. Time, health, and relationships are all things that cannot be replaced. Make sure the price you're paying is worth it. And third, set boundaries. Protect your time, your health, and your relationships. Don't let striving consume you. Schedule downtime, prioritize the things that matter, and don't be afraid to say no when necessary. Fourth, keep God at the center. Pray for guidance, seek His will, and trust in His plan. Striving doesn't mean that you have to do it all on your own. God is with you every step of the way. Striving is essential for growth and success, but it doesn't have to come at the expense of everything else. With the right mindset and priorities, you can strive and still maintain balance in your life. That's all for today's episode of Reborn Podcast. I hope this conversation helped you think more critically about what you're striving for and what it's costing you. Remember, striving is important, but not everything. Make sure you're striving for the right things and that the cost you're paying is one that you're willing to live with. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and leave a review. Your feedback helps us continue to grow this community and spread the message of living a balanced, purpose-driven life. Until next time, keep striving, but keep doing it intentionally and purposefully. I'm Tony Boutros, and this is the Reborn Podcast. Take care, and God bless.